Hi, I'm Kim Krause from the Scriber Media Center, and today we're going to be talking about gardening, specifically around a video we did last month about a couple in Scriber who does garlic growing, and we did a half-hour show about them, and everybody has, well, most people have watched it, and we're here to basically discuss gardening and to talk a little bit about the film. With me today, I've got Kathy Carlino. She is the senior coordinator, the coordinator, right? Or did I call it the coordinator, Kathy?
The programmer. Programmer
at the Scriber Senior Center. I've got Linda Babinski with me. She is the coordinator for Master Gardens in Thunder Bay District. Am I right?
Gardeners.
Yes, correct.
Master Gardeners. And Donna Mikulik, who's the head librarian of the Scriber Library. So welcome, everyone. We're going to start things off by, I'm going to ask if anybody had seen the show that we had done and what their impressions were. Kathy, you can go first.
You want me to go first?
Well, you were actually there. You were the
I won an Oscar award for this film, Kim. Come on now.
I think you got wardrobe and best performance and...
just a little background on the whole film and how it came to be. Was speaking with Donna. Donna and myself have been working together with several programs with our Scriber Senior Center. Scriber Senior Center is quite new. It's only been in existence since 2018. And Donna has been, I'm the programmer here, so I'm the actual face that they see. But Donna has been the background person right from the beginning of the Scriber Senior Center. So coming up with ideas on how to engage with our seniors has been a very natural progression. I think we both will agree. Not only have we done some seed sharing together, so Donna would come up with a plan and I would reach out to the people. So we work really well together. Having said that, we decided that we would do some fall planting with the garlic, and then we would see how many people would be interested. And that's how it started.
Now, can I just ask you, why did you pick Jimmy and Sarah? Was there a reason for that? Because
if you watch the video, you'll see that there's over 200 bulbs a year that they give away. I was one of the recipients at one point, so I know how beautiful they are. I've since discovered that the type that they're planting, I think Donna's the one who gave me clarity on that, is I believe it's called elephant garlic. And if you research it, sometimes they say it's not as strong as the other garlic, but we'll see, because this year we planted different ones as well as the elephant garlic. And so that's why we went to them. They are the ones here in Scriber who started bringing the elephant garlic, contraband or properly, we're not sure yet. They brought it into Scriber, and then from their crop, they shared first with just family, and then slowly, as long as you get on that cherished list, you will receive garlic.
It's quite an honor to be a part of that list as well.
Yeah.
I saw. And the fact that they've been doing it for so many years, I mean, it's quite remarkable. The other thing I wanted to mention is they were also crowned the King and Queen at the Winter Carnival last year. So I think that was a really nice little thing to include them in that.
91 at that point, 92 this year. Jimmy is. She's 86. They went to every event. And if you know about Scriber, Winter Carnival, and a minimum of 6 different teas and suppers are, being put on it every year. And they took their position really seriously. They would wear their crown and they would wear their robe, and they would make a point of speaking, really most of the people they knew. But if they didn't know people, they'd make a point of going over and sitting with them and engaging in conversation, because they knew that was their role. So they not only were the king and the queen, they really worked it.
And they're quite an amazing couple to be that age, seniors, and to be out there being so active in the community. It was really wonderful. Yeah.
For sure.
Donna?
They have an amazing garden as well. They grow enough potatoes and onions to feed themselves throughout the year, as well as all the garlic that they grow. So that's quite an accomplishment for a small backyard gardening to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I was amazed too at the reaction we got so far. We've had close to 600 hits on that video, which was really quite an accomplishment for for the stuff that we do. And that's I think that's one of our top ones that we've done so far. So I was very proud of that accomplishment.
We can actually share a link to your video on our Facebook, our Master Gardeners Facebook page.
That would be great.
Can even give you more hits as well. And we have over 900 people who belong to our Facebook page. So that I can actually put that up. And from our little discussion today, I can bring together a little blurb to put along with it. And I know that people are interested in what's happening in our region, let alone the various communities. And for someone at their age, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So Linda, can you tell us a little bit about the Master Gardeners of Thunder Bay?
I was just going to ask
your program. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, so we are right now a group of 20. We've lost members. We belong to the Master Gardeners of Ontario. And in order to become a Master Gardener, you basically have to take horticultural courses, which are offered either at Dalhousie, that's where I took mine, as well as Guelph. And now we have a program within our Master Gardeners of Ontario group where you can do a self-study program. So basically, people who want to join, they rate an eligibility test. So it's just it gives a basic knowledge of what's your starting point, what do you know about gardening, that kind of thing. We are a volunteer organization. So basically, what our mandate is to provide education. We don't actually go hands-on. We get asked many times to go and weed someone's garden, but we really can't do that. We can barely keep up with our own. So it would be a full-time job for all 20 of us in order to do that. But that is not our mandate. And of course, education and helping gardeners with either, let's say, from their very beginning of starting a garden, whether it be a vegetable garden, a flower garden, how to choose the plants based on location, sun, shade, etc. So it's just all the knowledge that we can offer to help people and gardeners within our region get and accomplish what they want to accomplish within their gardens. So basically, our mandate is education. And we do answer a lot of questions from either our Facebook page or our web page. People send us questions on possible problems that they're having within their gardens. What's eating this? What's growing on my plant that shouldn't be growing on it? How come it's dying? What's happening? So we're troubleshooting issues and problems as well.
And do you work with, or are you allowed to work with community garden groups? Would you be associated with them at all?
We have partnerships, and one of our major partners is the Art Gallery of Thunder Bay, and they have a major fundraiser, which is garden tours. And so basically we're in the garden answering questions. So there's a master gardener in every garden. There's usually 5 gardens in one community garden. And as far as Roots to Harvest, which is in our community, they run fairly smoothly. We have not partnered with them, but we certainly have done things together. So and supported one another in it. We partner with Lakehead Region Conservation Authority, which is another major partner of ours, looking at the kinds of issues that they have, whether it be I'm living on a waterfront, what sort of native plants should I be growing in order to maintain the natural flora of that waterfront. And if I'm a homeowner on the waterfront and I'm leaving, let's say I've got a lawn and I'm fertilizing like crazy and that's going into the water. So we're trying to, this is Gwen. Hi, Gwen.
Hi.
We're trying to make sure that people can understand what they need to do living on a lake. So there's lots of partnerships that we have. But as far as community gardens, it's kind of interesting. There's a Native women's organization that want to start a community garden for young people in our region. And we were just about ready to get started and have a meeting, and they were going to get started. And COVID hit. So we just have not able to move forward, and neither have they. So I'm hoping that things will be different this year, and we can actually then partner with them. We do volunteer work in gardens at senior citizens homes, and actually another one of our master gardeners lives in Nipigon Red Rock, and she's at the seniors home there. And that whole focus is on horticultural therapy, sensory gardens, that kind of thing. So I guess, and they're working with the elderly people who live there, trying to take them back to the time when they were in their gardens doing, like your couple who are 92 plus, doing their garlic gardens. So so basically we're open to working with community gardens for sure.
Okay. Can I just take a second to welcome Gwen? She just joined us. Gwen, can you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm Gwen Third, and Linda and I have been buddies for several years. We won't give away our age. And I'm a fellow master gardener with her as well.
Great. Yeah, we just started our discussion about what exactly they do in Thunder Bay as part of the Master Gardener program there. And welcome to our little discussion.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late. I have a dog that can escape. And the neighbors don't like her running free.
No.
Yeah.
So we briefly touched upon what Linda's doing. We've talked about what Kathy's doing and Donna's doing. Donna, you have obviously a lot more experience with gardening too, especially than I do. You were partially responsible for setting up the community garden in Scriber, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about that?
That program came out of a library initiative. We're about 16, 17 years old, and we received a grant through the Ontario Early Years Fund, the Best Start at that time, and our family place. So from that program, that grant, we were able to hire a coordinator who did a lot of programs with young children, and we decided to establish a community garden in Scriber that would offer a place for people and families to grow in an environment that they could, access land and share and network and grow good food. And so we had the coordinator, and it was built by a lot of volunteers at that time as well. So it was a combination of horticulture and agriculture. And we have a lovely pergola that's like 15 feet long and 13, 14 feet high. It's quite a lovely space. And over the years, we've had, just a large number of families. We can have up to about 20 plots. And over the last few years, we've started to build boxes. There are a lot of us seniors that are finding it a little bit difficult to, bend over and do a lot of the digging. So, and the boxes have just been wonderful. And that's where we're getting more seniors that are also involved. And some seniors from the senior center started also joining up in the garden.
Do you find with the raised beds that you have less varmints getting into them?
We really haven't had a lot of like animals like cats or dogs or, there still might be the odd slug in there, but they're just amazing because, well, I'll give you an example. There are quite a few gardeners that grew potatoes. Well, the potatoes that grew in the garden boxes were phenomenal, eh, Kathy? Right?
This big, guys.
Yeah, right. We drilled, and they're just. We heard a lot of people had problems with potatoes It seems every year there's, either the zucchini are hit or you've got to plant your beans 3 times. And so, of course, this year with COVID, it was much different because we had to follow the Thunder Bay District Health Unit guidelines with social distancing. Public couldn't access the building. We had to sanitize our tools. And I think that people were pretty respectful about doing that. So anyway, so over the years, we've had, a wide variety of people, seniors, families that have enjoyed the experience. And also, we've had volunteers come in and help. Like one year, we had the Katimavik come and help us with setting up programs. They actually even had, it was Scriber's 125th, and we had a puppet show in the garden, if you can believe it, that they did. And we also had the Lake Superior High School come in with their environmental study groups to help us with rebuilding compost bins. And also, just a lot of people coming through and helping with the program. So we're ready to go in the spring to build some more boxes. And I think I'd like to consider like a drip irrigation that we could put on a timer. Because it's amazing how much water that the garden can take during the summertime. But we've been very successful with that program. In fact, our library has won a number of awards. I think we're one of the first libraries to step outside of the box and come up with this concept. It was a community development outreach program, and we won the Angus Mowat Award, the Ontario Award for the project, and Ontario Library Service North Award, and we also won the Leadership for Design Award as well. That came out of Ontario Library Service. So we've been very successful in that respect, and we're just going to continue growing. And I know that there's a huge interest in gardening. In fact, the local hardware store had a hard time keeping up with supplies, with manure, tools. So it's just pretty exciting to see people take an interest and, get back to the land, connect with the environment, grow good food. And the library does have a small seed library that we have available for people as well. And that's where we partnered with the senior center, and we distributed packs of seeds, and they became members of the senior, garden club. And we've done a couple of Zoom meetings, and we're hoping to do more of that kind of thing. So it's pretty exciting to see how this can ripple throughout the community and how it impacts people's lives. And I'm just looking forward to seeing more of those wonderful connections.
And there's definitely been an uptick in gardening, but community gardening, and especially every time you flick through the news channel, you'll find stories all the time about how there's been a huge increase in the interest with gardening. And I'm not sure if it's related to the fact that more of us are at home now. We just have more time on our hands, or we're worried about food security and other issues. But it's been really, really amazing to see that big increase in interest. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it's the younger people are starting to come into the idea. Oh, and I have to say one more thing, Donna. How in the world did you grow that giant zucchini? And did that come out of the garden, or was it from your house?
Oh, that was from across the street. There's a huge empty lot. So I have grown them in the community garden, but I ran out of space. So anyways, yes, I won the zucchini growing contest this year.
I thought it was a watermelon, but the size of it when I saw the picture of it, I thought, oh my God.
They have been bigger.
You're a master gardener.
So I think next year, Kathy, we're going to think about maybe having a garlic growing contest.
Definitely a garlic, yes, definitely a garlic.
And I was reading about Garlic Fest. They have garlic festivals.
So we could do spaghetti with garlic, or we could do all kinds of different recipes.
I know. So who knows? I mean, that's where it becomes a lot of fun and very creative. And I know that I started growing garlic just about 3 years ago, and I was giving bulbs to different gardeners in the Little Sprouts community garden, and so they're growing garlic every year, and we get to share stories and share garlic, and
Mhm.
And that's the beauty of the community garden, if I could say, Donna, is the social end of it. You wouldn't expect that it would be that social as it is. I mean, in spite of the fact that it was social distancing, we still were able to connect, even if you're not there. I was away for the gist of the summer, this past summer, and this magical thing happened where people were planting things right into my plot, and then all of a sudden I have food at the end of the day. And there were several people that happened to. There was a young lady that had just given birth just prior to or just after the garden had started, and I'm not even sure that she managed to plant anything, but I'll tell you, she managed to harvest. And so you see all of that. And then, of course, the bragging rights is going to be wonderful too. It has been wonderful. I'll see. I would be shocked to say that the whole garlic thing come next fall won't be huge. There's going to be a ton of people. So we have it. The Zoom is not an indication of how many people are actually actively involved. I find they're intimidated by the Zoom and they're not joining as much as we'd like them to. I think they watch it afterwards, definitely. And but there's over 25 families that are involved at this point with the Scriber Senior Center Garden Club, virtual garden club. And so that's really cool to watch. And this year we actually, we had a little bit extra budget, and we've started another program where we're building so it's, different community groups helping different community groups. So our senior members are going to help build some garden boxes, and we were able to help provide some funding for that as well. So we'll have an extra pour
in the community garden. So we are all ready to start, digging and building all the frames. And of course it snowed. And so we've delayed it until the spring, but it was an interesting experience planting my garlic in the snow, I tell you. I hope I don't have to do that again.
And I have experienced that.
Yeah. So, anyways, that'll be a wonderful spring project, and there are a number of community gardens that I've kind of visited throughout Northern Ontario, and it's pretty amazing to see what people can accomplish with very little. And so I'm hoping we'll be able to grow our boxes. And I know that there's interest with other groups that would like to see more community gardens in our community and along the North Shore as well. So, and it's interesting reading about the victory gardens that people grew during the war to be able to supplement their food, and how successful those were. But of course, over the years, we've seen less and less. So the resurgence of getting back to the land and looking at that is pretty exciting.
Kathy, I just want to mention one thing, if you don't mind, if you can talk about it. The idea of a virtual garden club, how did that come about?
It was all based on COVID.
Yeah.
Here we are.
The idea behind it is just to keep people connected to each other when they can't physically get out and do that.
Here, Kim, here at the Senior Center, I was given the privilege to continue working throughout, even though my center is closed. So we had to be very creative and find ways to reach out. And we've done phone trees where my committee was able to contact members and talk to them via phone. We constantly put out different things on the media, Facebook being our main one, and email to try to interact with the seniors that way. So that was just an extension of that. We have, and because this is going to be seen by more than just Scriber people, we have a town-wide bingo that we put in place. And we're going to be doing another one shortly for Christmas with a special gift for Christmas. And this town-wide bingo is distributed via Canada Post, unless you're a member in one of the communities adjacent to us, and then they'll receive theirs directly still Canada Post, but theirs is mailed to them. The reason we ended up doing the whole town is mass mailing is cheaper than actually mailing individuals. So it made more economic sense that we would invite the whole community to participate than just the senior members. So what's happened is it's just taken off. We've had 3 bingos. The prize is a very humble gift certificate for the local grocery store. And yet people are playing. I am receiving emails. I get every day a minimum of 300 to 400 hits on Facebook about people checking out getting their numbers. And so that was one of the virtual groups that we put in place. And again, the virtual garden center, that's all part and parcel to trying to keep connected in this world where we've been separated, truthfully.
And with speaking of bingo, I think we're going to have a discussion about that too. The media center, everybody knows you use bingos to raise money. And I wanted to maybe ask Linda to jump in at some point if she has information about this, because Kathy, you just started to talk about it as well. One of the issues that comes up for any committee and any group, I imagine, would be funding and how we get funding, how we distribute funding. And I was wondering, maybe I can give Linda a shot at this to say, what would your thoughts be on ways of looking into funding, and how do you manage funding from your group?
It's interesting because as far as Master Gardeners go, most of our funding comes from our plant sale. We have a yearly plant sale, and the plants come from the Master Gardeners' gardens. Or perhaps they've started them in a greenhouse ahead of time for annuals, but most of them are perennials. And it's kind of interesting because this particular year, we had all kinds of plants. We're fortunate because we partner with Lakehead Region Conservation, and they have a very nice greenhouse that we can use and put all our plants in as we're doing it. But the plants just flew off the tables. They were just gone in no time. So that works very well. And that would be our major fundraising. Then what we also do is we give talks, and people will give us an honorarium. So for us, mainly, I guess, probably we don't need a lot of money, but you still do need money in order to function. So that is basically what we've done. As far as when we have our plant sale, we also have a educational day, which we call Look, Listen, and Learn. And so basically we hold it outside, and we have 4 speakers, and people readily sign up and come and join in. And some of it is hands-on demonstrations that people are showing. And so mainly, as I say, it's through plant sales and education events that we hold.
Okay, and
we have for the community garden, we also hold an annual plant sale, and like vegetable and house plants, and people donate, and we pull a lot of stuff out of the community garden. Like we have sections where there are flowers and different plants. So, and also we get a little bit of fees from people using their different plots and boxes. So it's not a lot, but it certainly helps replace tools, or, if we need, like this year, we needed a lot of hosing and that kind of thing. And donations, like people will give us donations for the seeds, for the seed library as well. They're small, but they do help. Everything adds up.
The other thing,
have service clubs such as Kinsman or something like that within the community?
We do. We have the Legion, our local Legion. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because that can sometimes be very helpful. And one of our master gardeners who unfortunately has passed away worked with a very specific group and had the children create raised beds. And then the children were responsible for it and were able to take what they grew home to their family. And it was in perhaps one of the less desirable areas of Thunder Bay, but the children really took very well to that. And then with having it as children, there was a lot of donations that people came forward with because they saw the next generation being grown as well. And it was a very successful program.
That's a great idea. In fact, last year we had the local elementary school do a bit of fundraising. There's a group within the school and that the students would fundraise for different things. So they gave the library some money. They had a book sale. And so what we decided to do is to take that money and help them build some raised boxes at the school so that they could, do some growing and also have a harvest meal, which is what they do in Terrace Bay. So there's wonderful projects and initiatives. So, but that's a really good idea in terms of reaching out, and it becomes more of a community project as well.
Yeah. Do you have any stores or anything that are hardware related or something like that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, they might want to look to be a sponsor or a lead or to facilitate. And then it gets that the community is growing together. And then if you have some people that are less fortunate, provides them with some foods that maybe they don't have access to.
Some of our local gardeners would donate to the food bank. They would grow a section and they've done that over a number of years as well.
Yeah, I was literally just about to ask about the working with corporate sponsors, say your commercial garden centers and stuff like that. But that would seem to be an obvious group to approach.
Here in Thunder Bay, it hasn't been that successful. They are very large and they're quite competitive. So Linda, we haven't actually done any of that type of thing. Individuals might get lucky and be able to get various things. But we had done some education in the school programs. And there was a session where the Master Gardeners would go in and part of the fall fair type of thing, getting ready for that. That they would go into the schools and then the children would grow the stuff with the assistance of the Master Gardeners and the school system, and then their items would be judged later at a fall fair and that type of stuff. So it was growing the gardener type of activity that was very popular, especially with parents. And then, some of those kids have been very successful.
Good.
Is there a children's program in Thunder Bay, like for
junior gardeners?
For gardeners, for junior gardeners? Is there anything like that?
The Master Gardeners have done a few things, and at the conservatory and outside the conservatory, in the past we had a section which was straw bale gardening. And the Master Gardeners would be working along with children and with families that came to learn about how to do straw bale gardening, and then they watched the things grow throughout the summer and whatnot. But that's a very good point, because as part of our Look, Listen, and Learn, which actually got canceled this past June, myself and another Master Gardener were working on a program that was going to be specifically focused on children in the garden. And so we have a lot of things that are in the planning, but we have to, I guess, get back to our normal things so that we can bring these educational opportunities forward and work with people in our community to implement them. But at this point, there really aren't a lot. And I know that in some of the other regions, the Northwest region of Master Gardeners, they actually have a program where they do these, the bug houses, that they are looking at how do we help the bugs in our gardens and all this sort of thing, and in our schoolyards. And so this one gentleman, Master Gardener, he's actually goes into all the schools, and he is hoping that eventually he will be able to get through to schools in different areas and different regions, and he would like to see one of his bug houses in hotels, or whatever he calls them, into all the schools, he said, in northwestern Ontario. So there are people who now are really looking at how they can bring this to our younger gardeners. And it's interesting because within our Master Gardener group, we have actually found, as was mentioned earlier, that young people are getting very interested in gardening. And we find that a lot of the questions that we get are from young people. We also have new Master Gardeners in training. One of them is just out of university, so there are a lot of people who are wanting to get more into gardening and learn, and it's all about food closer to home and growing what is going to be safe and edible for you and your family. So
I had an interesting experience this summer. I bought a milkweed plant from a greenhouse in Thunder Bay. I was quite surprised to even find one. So I gave it to my grandchildren, and so they had it on their deck, and then we eventually got put in the ground. But then my daughter-in-law realized that there were like 24 caterpillars on this one little plant. So she contacted a person in Thunder Bay, the butterfly garden that's just, they've started building it this year in Boulevard Park. So they were very helpful in saying, okay, bring some of the caterpillars here. And they told her where to go to get more milkweed. And then when I was there the week that I was babysitting, every day, we would get to watch a butterfly hatch and then let it go. And I was so inspired and touched by that. I thought, what an amazing thing to be able to share, with your grandchildren and children. So that's one of the projects that we're hoping to do in the community garden, is to have a section that will put in milkweed and put in more flowers that will be there in the fall for them, and help the butterflies and the bees.
In Thunder Bay, many of the schools have planted the common milkweed so that it's available when the school is closed and that type of thing. And a lot of the children actually go and look and see what's there. So down the street from me, one of the other Master Gardeners is a teacher, and we would go on a regular basis, and the children are there, and they're very, very interested.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there seems to be a real resurgence too with youth. If you look at, for instance, our high school grads that we had this year, more and more of them are going into forestry and things that have to do with looking after the earth and being a little bit more nature oriented, rather than in the past where you'd go and they'd go off to business school and do stuff like that. It's very interesting to see that cycle coming around again. And I notice it with a lot of the young kids. Yeah. I wanted to go through one more thing, because we've been talking for almost an hour now, and I don't want to keep anybody too long. But one of the things that people think about when you think about Western Ontario, especially where we are, is how can you grow anything in here? And it was also mentioned in the video where people were asking about, how do you actually grow in such a short season? What specifically would be some of the problems that we face up here, aside from that short growing season? And would there be any things, especially with garden clubs, where we can be looking at maybe starting to get all year round greenhouses going? Just looking for paths forward or different ideas that we can do, considering that we've got such a short season up here. So I'll toss that out to Gwen. You can start. You look like you want to
Sure. Previously, we had given talks about knowing where you are, so know your zone. Mm-hmm. And another lecture that we used to give is the dirt on dirt. So know basically what you're working with. So knowing your zone is selecting a particular plant that is good in that area. And then once you get brave, you might move up a little bit more. And then another one was location, location, location. So where's the sun coming? Where's the water? Do you have easy access to water? And that type of thing. And then the dirt on dirt was knowing what type of soil you have, how to amend the soil, and the different ingredients, how to recognize some of the bugs that are within your soil, and doing those types of lectures. And we had master gardeners that were actually participating in a school program, and going in at lunchtime, and the kids that were interested. And then they brought a lot of that information home as well. And so those types of things we've developed in the past, and that was part of our teaching that we did, and moving on and assisting. And talking to people about being realistic. This isn't Florida. You're not going to be growing oranges, that type of thing. So things that are going to be useful for you, so that you get return on your investment in regards to the right type of carrots, and getting them in the fall, and decreasing your garden buying at the grocery store and that type of thing. Linda?
We also have educational sessions on seed starting. And when to start them, how to look after them. It's a whole process, and then how to harden them and then plant them into your garden. And so you can sort of circumvent a lot of, buy some time by starting your seeds indoors and planting the plants out. I mean, obviously there's certain things that grow well in cold seasons. There are actually a lot of vegetables that are cold season vegetables, and they will last right up into the fall, and when you're harvesting them. So and they're hardy things, all your root vegetables, all this kind of thing. So there is a lot of education, and we do offer those sessions.
And then in the community-based gardens, they often would take to those that are less fortunate, so seniors that weren't able to do those types of things. And then it gave the community spirit to that action, that you're helping to take care of others. And then often they found that the seniors were going and then helping to teach the kids, and that type of thing. So it was taking care of community.
Yeah, I think creating a nurturing environment would be a really number one priority for that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also...
You haven't said anything for a minute. Why don't you pop in here?
Was it for me?
Yes, you.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that even comparing Scriber to Thunder Bay, you have a good month over us. So it is quite amazing that the gardens, and we have quite a few gardeners that are able to be successful, are as successful as they are, because again, we have at least a month less growing season than you would have in Thunder Bay. Having said that, you see from year to year, and even in the community itself, different people having successes and misses. I know myself this year, I tried to do zucchini in pots, no success. Terry, who would have been here, she's my chair for the senior center and is part of the club as well. She had so much zucchini, she was giving them away up until a little while ago. We have Nick Camiso down the road. He, is one of the best gardeners I know here in town, a brother to Sarah off of the video. And his green beans, when I left, looked amazing, but then it sounded like he planted them too early and it might have gotten bit with the frost. Mm-hmm. I know that was my case. So it's hit or miss.
Well, we had an early cold this
one
year.
Part sun, 2 parts soil, and the rest is prayer.
Rome wasn't built in a day either.
Yeah,
so
sure.
If you can share successes, and then how to amend or change, or just little things that maybe if I put it in this section because it gets more sun, and yeah.
Are you, Gwen and Linda, are you amazed at some of the things that people are doing that shouldn't work on the books, but are working.
Yeah.
You'll see in the video, there's a section about them planting in the same plot, year after year after year, the garlic. And Sarah will say to you, I tried over there about 15, 20 years ago, and it didn't work. Not enough sun. But this has been the place we planted it for 15, 20 years, and huge success. And I look at Donna and I said, Donna, they said you're supposed to rotate your crops. What the heck?
It depends on whether you rotate them or not. But they still have to like where they are. And it's interesting because you talked a little bit about your location versus Thunder Bay. And if we look at our zones, our growing zones across Canada, we know that with global warming, we're moving half an hour up a zone, half an hour north. So this actually changes everything. Our boreal forests, our bird migration, it changes all kinds of things, as well as what we grow. And so for that reason, some people will say, oh, okay, this global warming is a good thing to an extent. So
we're moving north. We're not moving south.
No, the warm weather is moving.
The weather is moving up. Yeah.
Okay.
So
All
our
right.
zone is warming up, and whereas we may find that a positive thing as we try to grow things within our garden, but I think if you look at some things, and you look at a lot of research for what we grow in our area comes out of Manitoba, and they are like a zone 2, 3 as well. So they're hardening off a lot of these plants and perennials. So there is a lot of research on how we can grow things in a colder climate. And as you had talked about the around greenhouses, there's a lot of work going on up north in regards to how they can grow food, because it's very expensive to transport it there. And so I think we're going to see a lot more of this happening, where people are doing the research and trying to figure out, maybe it's, I know I watched a video on a greenhouse up north, and at this point they're growing lettuce, but they're just so happy that they're able to grow this lettuce in the greenhouse.
And not pay $30 a head for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's an equipment, and so as Gwen said, that's
yeah. The other thing is deer management. How do you keep the deer out of the gardens? It's a huge challenge for my personal garden. And I'm trying to make friends with the deer, and like, you stay away from me and I'll keep my dog away from you. And so I've learned very quickly in my new location that I can't have what I had before, and is knowing what you can or can't do. And so then I've changed some of the stuff that I've planted, and the deer don't care for it. So it's a compromise.
A few years ago, I attended an interesting conference at Lakehead University, which was about food sustainability. And there was an interesting presentation from a group from northern Minnesota, and they grew vegetables year-round using solar off their garage. And they used eavesdropping and suspended them. But they were able to feed about 20 families throughout the winter, which was pretty amazing. And then in the summer, they would let it all burn off. They wouldn't grow anything. So, I mean, those kinds of things are pretty interesting when you have a look at them. And I often thought, oh, wouldn't it be great in Scriber if people had all these greenhouses off their garages and we could all be growing fresh food. But also there are other simpler ways as well, like growing sprouts in a jar. Then you've got your gardening in a sense year round. The very, very nutritious, very easy thing to do, and very easy project to do with children as well.
Yes.
So there are. I mean, you can take it any direction in terms of, okay, how am I going to sustain myself and and do it in a healthy way. So, we all have our growing experiences for sure. But I was really annoyed that winter came 3 weeks early this year.
Very cold, very fast. Yeah.
Yes.
And one of the interesting things too, Don, and you sort of touched on it, and you're seeing a lot of it happening, is the whole concept of gardening is changing. Like you look into cities and people are growing on rooftops. They're doing, is it horizontal gardening, where you're growing stuff inside and making, it's like you're making your space work for your gardening, rather than just being stuck to that idea that you need that plot in the backyard and that kind of a thing. And that seems to be a very interesting trend.
I also think that it's not necessarily about the end result and it having value. Sometimes it's mental health. Sometimes it's just pride in the product. Okay, for example, I purchased 4 eggplant plants this year. First time doing eggplant. And I knew that, because from talking to some of the other gardeners, it wouldn't do well in my greenhouse. So I put it on the deck, which had lots of sun. Out of my 4 eggplant, I was able to harvest, I would say 12 mini, because they were mini eggplant. We had a feed. I do them stuffed. I do a beautiful, very traditional Italian stuffed eggplant. And we were thrilled. It was delicious. Probably dollar for dollar. I could have bought it for the same money, but I was so happy. And next year it'll be 8 plants up on that deck. I may even start it by seed if I manage to get time to do that.
My husband came home. My daughter started gardening, and he said, here's a $60 squash. It was like this size, right?
Oh, that's a good one.
It is what it is. They just didn't do very well. So it is a growing experience.
It's all a labor of love. That's all it is.
Labor of love.
Listen, we're getting close to running over an hour here, and I wanted to keep this short and sweet for our first one. Well, not short and sweet, because I think we can come back and we've got a lot of things to talk about still. But I would like to think about closing down this discussion, and then maybe getting from everybody, why do we garden? Why, that's my question in my mind. Why do we garden? And I think if everyone could just maybe come up with a short little summary of why we garden, that would be a nice way to close down this show.
It's food for the soul. It's food for the soul. Which was an interesting concept with our board when initially I said, we could grow, a community garden. Well, we're a library. Yeah, but it's food for the soul.
Good. Kathy?
Well, you know what? Even more why, I just want to say, because you had asked at the beginning, what was the end result of your video?
Mm-hmm.
And the end result was right across Canada, we have had, even Italy, there's been some hits where people have said remarks about the video and how wonderful it was. There was some questions about the accent, because they are both landed immigrants, proud Canadians, and a very thick accent. And so there was some questions about understanding it all. But for the most part, people were really proud of the fact that they were able to do that. And just a very, very positive feedback as far as the whole video went. Why do I garden? It does make me connect with my roots. Mm-hmm. You got to remember, my mom came from Italy as well. Mm-hmm. At one point, she had the whole back. I didn't even know conceptually what a lawn was, because she planted every square inch. Sarah and Jimmy do too. I'm hoping that what will come out of this video, Kim, will be a virtual garden guide next year, because we have at least 20 to 30 different households that we can go to. And Kim and I have a date for this summer, and we're going to go when it's in its prime, so that they can boast and their chest will be full of pride as they show us all the different things that they've planted. And we'll all, even at the ripe old age of 60, feel like we're losers in comparison to these people all 80 plus. So we're going to do that this summer. That's what's going to come of this video as well. Another video will come of it. And again, I had my mother pull 5 bushels of peas, and I've never heard of anybody be able to do that out of Terrace Bay, Ontario. Yeah. Colder than Scriber. Yeah. This is it. We want to go back to those roots. We want to be able to share those with our grandbabies. We want to be able to share those and just have fun. Just have fun. That's why we plant.
And I think that you touched on too, community pride and that kind of a thing, because especially in Scriber, with our makeup of our community, our background, a lot of Italian immigrants, especially the older generations, that was always a huge thing. It was a pride issue to have a garden. It wasn't about having to grow their food or worrying about food growing, or even, thinking about the way that we're approaching it now. But it was just something that almost was part of the culture. And I can remember as a kid too, whenever you wanted the best peas, you went down to Mrs. Figlameni's and you went into there with your pail and you scooped up what you could, because they always had a lot of it. But it's interesting because we all know that things skip generations, and now with it coming back that way again, like you yourself, Kathy, you probably have more interest in gardening than your children do.
My children have tried and not doing too bad. The interesting would be my generation was skipped. Yeah. Because my brother Dobie tried really hard this summer, and he looks me straight in the face and says, I don't really like this. No. So my generation is doing it grudgingly. Yeah. The next generation is doing it enthusiastically. That's the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're right, correct in saying we skipped a generation, right? We did skip a generation, and it would be us, really. And now grudgingly, because of COVID, because we have time to twiddle our thumbs, because we want to be part of it, we're starting to get back into it. But like both my brother Cause, my brother Dobie, they both, and Dom doesn't do much of it, his wife does. They both have said, I really don't like this. No. It's a lot of work, Kath. Yeah, it is. Yeah, especially in Southern Ontario. You actually have to process 5 or 6 bushels of tomatoes if you're going to plant them. So, yeah, it's different, eh?
Yeah. I just wanted to quickly share it. I mean, one of my first experiences as a child in gardening was my family were Ukrainian, or my heritage is we have a lot of gardeners. So we, as a child, we had a big garden in our backyard. So one day I must have been about maybe 6 or 7. I had a little red wagon, and I took my wagon to school, and I had some vegetables on the wagon, and, it was show and tell. So, I brought it to get the kids to figure out what it was that was, I brought in my own wagon, and they couldn't guess. They didn't know what it was. Well, they were 2 enormous potatoes.
You've always had luck with these gigantic vegetables.
I haven't been able to grow them that big here, so I don't know what I'm doing.
Next year, Donna, it'll be your year.
I know. I'm going to grow them in your box. I think maybe that right. And sprinkle some fairy dust on them or something.
The least I can do for you, honey.
You're going to be the potato queen.
I don't know.
Okay, Gwen, and you sum it up as well. Why do you garden, or why should anybody garden?
Well, my point in life came that, Linda and I are both nurses and a background in that field, and it was always giving a lot to others. And so after I had done my master's and that type of stuff, it was, did I want to do a PhD, or did I want to do something that was for me? And then it came into master gardening and doing that type of thing. So for a period of time, it was an investment in me, and then been able to share it with others. And I look back at what my mother did, and I found the same kind of peace in there, because the peas don't talk back and that type of thing. And you have to have routine and practice, and yes, it's okay to fail and that kind of stuff when you're doing this. So it was a self-investment that has grown through. And I think that sometimes you can sell it that way, that it can be a therapy as well as the production, and that you value in what you have and being able to share it.
Wonderful. That's good sentiments. Yeah. And again, we keep coming up with that thing about nurturing and that inner calm that you find. Linda, I think you're going to have to sum up everything for us if you don't mind, because we're going to have to say goodbye soon. So like to hear why do you garden, or why should anybody garden?
Well, I, again, similar to Kathy, my heritage background, my grandmothers had both paternal and maternal grandmothers had huge gardens. My parents then had a huge garden. And it was kind of interesting because this time of year in the fall, I'm originally from Winnipeg and Manitoba and whatnot. We would have this great big family get together, and everybody would bring things from their garden. And my father had this great big pot, and they made this humongous stew. There'd be the potatoes and the carrots and everything, peas, and would all be in this big stew. And we would have a great big harvest party kind of thing. And so I think those times were fun times. And then as you then start your own families, and you start looking at your surroundings, it just seemed to be natural to plant a garden and move forward with that. And it's kind of interesting because now my grandkids have been gardening, and it's interesting. At first they had the low boxes like Donna had. They were my son built them about a foot high, and then my grandson, he was 5 years old, and had planted lettuce, and they live in Oakville. He was so upset because the bunnies had ate his salad. So here they bought one of the high level raised gardens. So the bunnies didn't eat his salad, but it's so interesting to see how children again are interested in gardening, and both my experience with my grandkids is this is very important to them. And although my granddaughter said she doesn't really like the taste of the tomatoes, she likes everything else. So it's good. So again, it's coming from families, and I think we're almost getting back to, and maybe it's the whole situation, but the importance of families and family gatherings. And I think, again, around the whole idea of gardening is certainly one way to bring everybody together. So that's mine.
Yeah, the community.
Community. Right. Well, unless anybody else has something to say, I would love to have another discussion like this, because it's been really, really interesting having us all together. There's some really, really good themes have come out of this. But I think, Donna, is there anything else that you would like to mention before we sign off?
Well, I'm just looking forward to working with Linda and Gwen, and hopefully we'll be able to put together some interesting videos in the future for our community.
Yes, that's one thing we need to do as well. With the Media Center now, we can actually help spread the word and get messages out there, and some how-to things and content like that. Kathy?
I'm, again, very thankful for our guests, and for you, Kim, as well, to be able to make this possible so we could share with people. Again, you'll notice that we don't have a lot of extra Zoom members here, but I'm sure they'll be watching this once you post it. Yep. And we'll continue to keep touching base with the different people here in town so we could share some of the remarkable things they're doing. So again, thank you to everyone.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. And I look forward to a time where we can get together and chat again. Very soon.
Perfect.
Take care.
Take care, everyone.
Be good.
Bye.
Bye.